All right, well, welcome to episode number 41 of the Oklahoma Weather Show. Here we are today, basically middle of November, and having a great show today. So, having a wonderful guest. I think many meteorologists and weather fans are very familiar with who we have on today's show. He's a chief meteorologist at 3340 in Birmingham, Alabama. James Spann. James, great to have you on today's show. We're going to talk a lot about social media and even talk a little bit about your experiences with tornado outbreaks down there in Dixie Alley, because if you think about it, the Oklahoma City market and the Birmingham market are pretty similar when it comes to severe weather. We both get a lot of just nasty weather. So meteorologist Danielle Dozier in charge of today's show. So Danielle, take it away.
Well, James, I am so excited that you're here today with us and got to talk to you briefly on your show not too long ago. And so for everyone out there that might not be familiar, just jump on Twitter for a quick second and look up James Spann, and you'll see how many followers he has. And James, I know you get that all the time. How in the world do you have so many followers? But I think I really want to know the answer. Like, what do you do to build your audience on Twitter? Because you have people that don't just follow you down there in that state, but they follow you nationally.
I don't know. I come on these shows from time to time, and I'm billed as a social media expert. I know nothing about it. So everybody on this show knows more about it than I do. I just use it a lot, and I think half the reason for having a large number of followers is just being an early adopter. I sign up for anything and everything the minute it's released when it comes to social networking. So the early bird tends to get the worm, and most of this stuff doesn't stick. It goes away like Ello. Who has signed up for Ello here on this show?
I have not. No, I have not.
So that's the new hip social media network, and I got in there, and you got to get in there early so you can get your name and kind of get it set up the way you want to. Ello will probably not exist in 3 years, but who knows? Maybe it's going to replace. People don't is that I actually respond and answer people's questions, and I tend to do it whether it's 3 in the morning or 3 in the afternoon. So the engagement is also a very big deal. I'm a big believer in that. And I consider this, if they're coming to me asking me a question about weather, I'm honored that they do that, because they could go to a whole lot of people to do that, but they chose me. So that's an honor, and it's the least I can do to spend a little bit of time and answer them back. If it's at all possible, I can't do every one of them, but I do a whole bunch of them. I spend probably way too much time a day on social media, but as we all know, our conventional business model is dying. And if we don't engage with an audience and find it somewhere else, then we're all hosed here in a few years.
James, did you have a MySpace page?
Oh yeah, I still do. I mean, hey, I've got them all. I mean, but what you do, you sign up for them all, and you put a little content on there, but you focus on. I typically focus on 4. Obviously, Twitter and Facebook and Instagram, which is very important to me for reaching younger people. A lot of parents start their kids, 4th, 5th, 6th graders on Instagram, and you can reach them there. And Google Plus is huge. A lot of people don't use it, but they don't understand Google Plus. There's nobody there. It doesn't matter if you've got one person following you. That is huge in search engine optimization. If they're going to search for your products and services, if you're not on Google Plus, there's a good chance you're not going to show up until deep down in the Google listings, and you're not going to be there. So if nothing else, but I call Google Plus Facebook without the stupid. It's great engagement, it's intelligent conversation, and it's my favorite platform. Does it reach the most people? No, but it's a very good platform. But it's for SEO.
But you mentioned Instagram and appealing to the younger audience, and that's something that I don't have, so maybe that's something that I look into getting, and not just posting pictures on Twitter and stuff. You have a very definitive opinion on the way we reach people with weather and social media. You think that Twitter is the best way to go. So for people who maybe haven't heard your thoughts on that, just tell us how you feel between all the different outlets and how to reach people.
Well, here's the problem we have. Clearly, I think in most every market, Facebook has better penetration by far. But the problem with Facebook is that they filter, what content goes into a person's newsfeed. And like if you go to my Facebook page, like 180,000 people like me. And by the way, I know 1,000 people do not like me. In fact, there are days where I don't know if anybody likes me. But the reason they like me, it's the idea that they're going to get weather content, especially severe weather content, in their newsfeed. And the truth is most of them won't. Out of those 180,000 people, the organic reach is down to 1%. You might get, 4 or 5,000 if you're lucky. Now, if they share it and it kind of, the ball starts going downhill, you might get more than that. But so if you like anybody on this show here to get weather information, if you like their page, there's a good chance you're not going to see that. And that's dangerous. Social media should never be your first way of getting severe weather warnings. Y'all know that, but a lot of people do that. But the Facebook filtering, it is random, it is anomalous. This EdgeRank algorithm, which I think actually went away, nobody understands it. That they won't how that works. And a lot of good weather content from weather service offices, from private sector people like us, nobody sees it. Where Twitter doesn't filter. And the other problem with Facebook, you might see it, 24 hours later. What good is a tornado warning if you see it the next day? And lately, we've had problems here in my market with people sharing winter weather forecasts from last winter.
Yes.
Facebook says you might like this post too. This related post from James Spann. It was a snow forecast from January, and so people just hit the share button on anything they see that's outrageous. And so we spend all this time putting that stuff to bed, and that's time that we don't have. So it's very frustrating, but we have to be there. We have to be there, but we have to educate people that there's a good chance you're not going to get a lot of content here, and there are some hoops that you can jump through to get it in your news feed. But Twitter, there's no filtering. It's immediate. It's all there, and everybody can see it if they choose to. But even Twitter is not the first way of getting warnings.
Hey, one of the problems I think I've seen lately coming in out of Twitter is that I follow a lot of weather people, and so I will follow, let's say, a chief meteorologist in Dallas, and then they have a station Twitter handle, and then all their other meteorologists. And so what ends up happening is that sometimes when, let's say, one person, let's say the chief meteorologist at station XYZ in Dallas pushes out a post, and then all of their other meteorologists are tied to that post, and all of a sudden I look into my Twitter feed and I see 4 of the same identical posts because they have the station weather website and then you have your individual weather websites, and they all just start looking the same. And I've gotten to the point now where I've had to delete certain Twitter followers, mainly because when they tweet something, it then shows up 4 other times and everyone else's tweet, because they're all kind of grouped together. I'd like to see that change a little bit, where there's a lot more individualism, I guess you could say, in our tweets, and so that we're not having bots sending out our tweets, because that can certainly kind of mess up the message, I think.
I agree. I'm a big believer that it should be personal. I don't automate anything on Twitter, on my personal account. My account is just my last name, Spann. We do have an automated account, but that's all that is. We have an account called eWarn, and it pushes warnings over there. That's all. If you want to get the automated stuff, you go follow eWarn for my market. And if you want content from me, human-produced content, human-powered, real people content, you follow Spann. We don't have the deal here where it triggers all these. I agree, Damon. You see some stations where like all 5 or 6 meteorologists, their posts are the same. It's automated. It's coming off these bots. That is not human, and I'll tell you, people don't like that. They want something real. And so it's very important for me to let people, I think people understand that if they follow the Spann account, it's for me. It's not some 18-year-old kid we're paying minimum wage to maintain the account at night or on the weekends. It's really me. And if you see me typing tornado emergency in your neighborhoods on there, you better dig a hole, because I mean that, and it's not a bot coming off the Weather Service chat, or there's a million different ways of doing that. But so we set up a whole different Twitter account just for the automated stuff. You want that, go over here. If you want me, come over here.
Yeah, you're really great, James, at just personalizing things for people. By the way, this is Brad Souter. I'm the morning med over at KOCO. By the way, I've been watching you for years. My mother-in-law lives in your market, and she's been talking about you. I hear about Span for the last 15 years.
Yeah, that's Span. Yeah. No, if she's over, see, the only people that like me, they're over 70 or under 7. That's my target. It's an older lady. Yeah, they love me. Yeah.
She's down in Greensboro, so down just south of the Tuscaloosa.
What?
You know where Greensboro? You know where everything is.
Oh man, this is great. We'll talk about Greensboro later. Right? We could do a whole show on Greensboro.
My question for you. When we watch you, like we were talking about personalizing your social media, but you do the same thing on air. You know where every Tom, Dick, and Harry, burger joint, gas station, every little nook and cranny of your market, and that's huge because now on a day when it's 80 and sunny across your market, sure you can talk about where you had some good fried chicken the other night, but when you're tracking a tornado. People don't know where they live, but they know where the liquor store is. They know where their church is. So my question is, I know you've lived there your whole life, but still, there's a lot of country between you and Talladega to wherever your market is. How did you learn where everything is? Because you seem to know it all.
Well, here's my position on this, and I would not be successful in Oklahoma City. Let's say they hire me and I start next month. It's going to take me years to develop the knowledge it takes to be successful in a market. To be successful in doing weather these days, you have to understand 3 things. You have to understand people, culture, and geography. Those are the 3 big things, and I just can't magically go into a market and do that. When I went to Dallas in the mid-'80s, I was transferred out there. I was working for the NBC channel in Birmingham. They moved me to the CBS channel, and they told me on a Friday, you start Monday. And so, I was a stranger in a strange land. I was competing against Harold Taft and Troy Dungan. Harold was on Channel 5, and Troy was on Channel 8, and I was on Channel 4. And that was my biggest issue, was that I didn't know these places. So in answer to the question, it just takes time. I speak somewhere every single day. Unless I've got a board meeting or some station function, I am booked up right now through the end of May. If you want me to come to your school, I will be glad to, but it's got to be school year 2015, 2016. And when I go to these schools, I take the roads less traveled. If you drive down the interstate, all you see is interstate. So you've got to get off the interstate and drive roads where people live. And even if you've been in a market for 35 years, like I have, there's still places I haven't seen. So I get off the beaten path, and I just try and remember things. I remember places because you're right. If there's a tornado warning issued by the National Weather Service and it says there's a tornado 14 miles south of Clanton, even people that live there, they don't know what that means. But if you can tell them it's pretty close to Jim's Pit Barbecue and the Fat Girls Cafe in Billingsley, everybody knows where that is. And the government, they can't do it.
Is there a Fat Girls Cafe?
There really is. And it's not too far from Greensboro, so the next time you're down here, I'm taking you there.
All right.
Although Jim, but a large landowner out in the country, everybody knows, where a certain person has a farm. You can use that as a landmark. Anything beats the 18 miles southeast or southwest of. So I've just learned that it works in my market. Does it work in yours? I don't know, because I've never done weather in Oklahoma City. It might. I think it would, but I don't know that for sure. But it certainly works here. And it takes time. That's the thing. And I see so many people, all they're trying to do is loop through these markets trying to get to a top 10 market. I'm going to be in this market for 1 year, and this market for 2 years, this market for 3 years. Then I'm going to be in New York or Chicago or Dallas or Atlanta. I'm not sold on that, and I guess that's okay, but on your way up, you will not be successful because of the short term of service that you offer those smaller market stations.
James, you're exactly right. That's the difference between chasing a job and chasing a career. People that are just chasing a job, they do those. They kind of come and go really quick. And people that are chasing a career, you plant your roots and you let them grow. And that's what it takes for someone like yourself to be able to know every inch of your market is to chase that career, and that's what you've been doing.
Yeah, and I understand the money thing, and money's better in higher markets, but you can make some decent money in smaller markets. And if you're in this for the money, you're in it for the wrong reason. this is a hard business now. Our business model is dead. If you think you're going to be a good-looking person, and by the way, everybody on this show looks good. I mean, y'all look like models here. Now, I'm the outlier. You know, I'm this old bonehead guy. No, I mean, look at. I mean, you guys look like you know to be doing commercials for a department store or something. But if you think
you have though, James.
But if you think you're going to look good and have a pocket square and get your teeth whitened and have the nice hairstyle, and just that will magically vault you to some top 10 market where you're making 500 grand a year, no. People get weather on their phone. They don't wait on some blow-dried boob on television at night, and we've got to provide products and services that are relevant to them, and I'm afraid that we're not in a lot of places. I'm preaching today, aren't I? I sound like a cranky old preacher today.
No, I love it. I love it. James, hey, let's get back on this topic about, we talked about how Twitter is kind of the way to go when it comes to weather warnings. But how do you stop those people out there from posting these fake images that drive me nuts every time there's some sort of tornado outbreak or something like that? How do we get these people to stop doing something like that? Is there a way? And also answer kind of this new idea, I guess, of I'm hearing that the NWA is doing this digital seal thing. So what are your thoughts on all that?
You can't stop them, Danielle. You cannot stop these boneheads from posting outrageous material. They don't care. It's all clickbait. They drive you to their website where they're using a Google AdSense account, and they're basically paid by the click. And if they can drive 300, 400,000 page views over there, they'll get a nice little paycheck. And whether it's 5 feet of snow or a death, doom, and destruction tornado outbreak or whatever, they don't care. They want eyeballs and clicks. We're not going to stop them. So what we have to do is just do some simple education. In fact, I have gotten to the point now, we do an early newscast at 4 o'clock Central Time. And I don't stand on the green wall. I don't do the, hey, it's going to be sunny and 70. I don't do the Ron Burgundy, Brick Tamlin weather anymore. I'm done with that at 4. I stand over there with a news anchor. We do radically different stuff because people pretty much know the weather. And once a week I have the Facebook stupidity of the day. And yesterday I did the Earth will be cast in 3 days of planetary darkness in December. That's clickbait. They want you to go over there and click on this. And by the way, that's confirmed by NASA. So, it's a process of education. And I'm going to do that every week. And by the way, this is interesting. Tonight, for the first time in all my years, in 36 years, I will not be on the green wall starting on the late 10 o'clock news tonight. We're going over to the set with an anchor. We're off the wall. We're doing the same type thing we do on the 4 o'clock because everybody knows what the weather's like at 10 o'clock. Yeah, we'll do a little 7-day forecast, but we are moving away from that, and it's way past time for that. But part of that is the education of letting people know that you're being scammed. That don't look like an idiot and think before you share. And in terms of what the temptation for weather people is to go, well, let's identify these people, let's attack them, and let's bring them down. They're like roaches. It is whack-a-mole. You knock one down, there's going to be 15 more that pop up, and the ones you knock down are going to come back with different names and different domain names. And I don't even have time to do that. So it's a matter of education, and I do think that it is a step in the right direction what the guys at the NWA have done. They now have a digital seal, and a good example is one of our guys. We have a little weather business called the Weather Factory. We used to be the Weather Company, but we sold that name to the Weather Channel. We don't care if we're the pink polka dot company. So anyway, we're the Weather Factory, but one of our guys is Bill Murray. Bill is not on television. All he does is write for our blog, and Bill got seal number 1, digital seal number 1. And what that means is, for what we're trying to tell people, if you see that up there, that seal of approval, this is good, a reliable source. Could it be wrong? Yes. We're weather forecasters. We are telling the future. We've been wrong before. We'll be wrong again. But this guy is credible. He has the education background. He has the knowledge to make a credible forecast. And hopefully the AMS will do the same thing. I've talked with Marshall Shepard and others within the AMS about that. And if we can get that, getting some traction, I think that's a very good thing. That's a start. All of us have these TV, the CBM and the NWA seals and all that. I like the digital because that will help people parse out this insanity from really good information.
But I believe broadcast Mets are not able to get this seal, correct?
I don't know. I do not know how that works. We need to do a show on that sometime. And what's interesting, I really write more than I'm on television. The most important products and services I produce are done in this closet with blog posts and videos. And so really, I work more on the digital side than on the television. Now, how much time do they give you, Damon, to be on television at night? What, 3 minutes?
3:15, 3:30.
Yeah.
Got it.
Yeah, I mean, so that is a fraction of the time we spend producing products and services. And, and if I need to go take a test, fine, I'll be glad to do that. I like things that push me to the next level. So the AMS is looking at it, and anything we can do to just show people this is where you can get credible information. And the other battle we're fighting is these crap apps. In almost every phone, what comes with it here, it's a crap app. And it's okay. It's a generic app, whether it's Yahoo or Weather Channel, AccuWeather, but no human is behind it. It's, how it works. It's automated. It takes model data. They do some kind of grids, and they produce a forecast. It's okay on most days, but on days where it's really important, where you've got anomalous weather, a big snowstorm, a severe weather outbreak, it doesn't tell you anything. So I'm a big believer in human-powered weather, and we've got to work around that, and I think most stations at least have a plan. We did a James Spann app last year. All it is human-powered, and it's been marvelous. It has been wildly successful. And the products and services I produce every day in one place, and I think that's another thing we all ought to be doing too. The crap apps drive me crazy. Can you tell?
Absolutely, I can tell. It seems that there's the good, the bad, and the ugly to social media and what we can get on our phone. One of my new pet peeves that has recently surfaced, and I don't know why meteorologists do this, and I wish we would stop doing it, but there are some out there that will do it. They'll grab a weather model. Let's say it's the GFS at hour 162, and it will say, oh, look, the GFS model has a foot of snow for Florida next week. I'm just posting this for fun. I don't expect it to happen. Well, if you're not expecting it to happen, then why are you going to post it? Because what happens is when you post those type of long-range model outputs on social media, and then you say, I'm not expecting it to happen, the viewer is not going to see you saying, I'm not expecting it to happen. All they see is this model of a foot of snow in Florida, and then all of a sudden, all of the broadcast Mets get looped into that when it doesn't happen. And they say, I thought you said we were supposed to get a foot of snow next week. And so I really wish that people would stop doing that. That's kind of the ugly side as well to social media, it seems, these days.
And it's tempting. You guys have to admit, you're sitting here and the 12Z data sets coming in and just something is, and obviously next week we got this incredibly cold look coming down the pike. And what do you post? I agree, and I'll just raise my hand. I've been guilty of throwing something out there in years past that I really shouldn't throw out there. But what we've had some sentinel events in this market where I really can't do that much anymore. We had, what do they call it, snow jam, whatever that deal was back in January. We had a bad forecast. We had a horrific humanitarian crisis where 50,000 people were stranded on highways here. And I can't do anything with snow now, and the problem is we have to reestablish credibility because the forecasts were not good. They're not going to listen to us. They're going to go to clickbait, crap apps, whatever. They don't trust us. And if they see some guy posting these outrageous models 5, 6, 7 days in advance, they're going to believe him. And again, part of that goes back to our missing that forecast. But I've got to be very careful, because people are edgy and they remember being stranded. They were running out of gas. They were hungry. Their kids needed medicine. They were burning papers out of their car on the side of the road to stay warm. And then 3 years ago, we had a tornado outbreak that was generational, where in one day we had 252 people that were killed. And I got to be the same way with severe weather. And the one thing that has helped me, Damon, it's the social science side. I think all of us here have been trained in physical science. My first major was electrical engineering, and I finished in meteorology. I've never taken a class in human behavior, being some TV guy. I don't know anything about it, but we've got to be better at the social science side. And they've helped me greatly, and that is helping me hold back from throwing things out there that I used to, after 3 years ago or more.
So James, let's get on another topic. We've talked a lot about social media, and just got to keep it flowing here. It's 12:25.
See, on Weather Brains, we go for like 3 hours. You guys have a time schedule here. Yeah, this is good. Y'all produce a tight program.
I have to report today too, so we got to get going. So I don't know exactly how your station does or shares storm prediction center outlooks on TV. I know here we air storm prediction outlooks. We don't draw our own polygons or anything like that, but there are some stations in the local market here that do that. They draw their own polygons. And then you have this whole, controversy with viewers seeing a bunch of different things on TV, and I just kind of want to get your thoughts on how we need to work very closely in trying to relay the same message and work together as meteorologists, but also working with the folks down there at the SPC or your local weather service office and kind of getting on the same page. So I just wanted to hear your thoughts on all of that.
I'm very opinionated on that. In fact, I was on the Weather Channel here recently. My friend Marshall Shepard invited me on his show, and they said you can say anything you want to. So I went on a tirade about this product they have, a proprietary index called Torcon. We don't need to be doing that. We need to be on the same page. And understand, I understand better than most. This is a fiercely competitive business. You guys understand that. I know the other stations in Oklahoma City do things that aggravate you guys just like snot, and vice versa. And the same thing here. And sometimes it can be very hard, where you want to one-up the other guy and you're going to do something that the other guy's not doing. But when it comes to the basics, I think we've got to be on the same page. We have to be on the same page when it comes to severe weather outlooks. We have to be on the same page when it comes to watches and warnings. We have to be on the same page when it comes to the call to action during severe weather. The way we communicate it, it's different. And that's where people have a choice. Some people hate me, and they're going to go watch the other guy, and vice versa, in the same thing in that market. But I don't like stations issuing their own watches and warnings. I don't like stations doing their own proprietary index, and this includes channel. And this is not a knock on Greg Forbes. I don't even know if this is his idea. It might be a marketing department idea as far as I know. But the problem with that, let's say that the Weather Channel has a Torcon for Oklahoma City of 8. Damon's got a Torcon of 2. I got one of 3. Everybody else on the show has 4, 5, 3, 6, 7. Who do you believe? It's just this hodgepodge of mass confusion. We have the significant tornado parameter. What's wrong with using that? That's the industry standard within the weather enterprise, but yet they've gone rogue. And we've got to stop this being rogue, and we've got to be on the same page. Can you have a disagreement? Yeah, you can. Goodness, how many times have we been on the air and you're not so sure there's anything there? There's a tornado warning, and you don't even know what's going on. But yet at the same time, I'm not going to get on the air and say, this tornado warning is bogus. I don't even know why they issued it. Don't worry about it. I'm going to go on there with a tornado warning and carry on. I might not be overly aggressive, but I'll put it on the air. And the same thing with convective outlooks. And, we got these new outlook levels. And the same thing with a tornado watch. But we just have to be on the same page. I'm a big, big believer in that. The way we communicate it, yeah, we're all different. But we have to be giving the same message, or else it's mass confusion.
Do you think viewers, James, get the SPC outlooks? Before we had 3 categories: low or slight, moderate, and high. Now it's slight. No, wait, hold on.
Marginal.
See, marginal, slight,
enhanced.
Is moderate still there?
Moderate, high.
Okay, high. See,
Enhanced comes moderate and high.
Yeah. So are you going to throw it out just like that? Because we've had one station in our market who has used the word enhanced for years, and they put it between slight and where did they put it? It was after moderate. It was right before high.
Yeah.
And I don't know if they're going to change, but we're asking the viewers now to, and some of their viewers might watch us. So my question is, are you going to use all 5 levels just like that, or are you going to try to take it, break it down into chunks that viewers can understand more of?
That on the air. Now, I might explain it in a different way. I might not even mention the fact, well, there's an enhanced risk here, and this is moderate. I might not do that, but the graphic will be untouched from what comes from SPC. And let me just say this. I think we are all in a unique position here. The people that watch you guys and the people that watch me, we have sophisticated weather markets. And I think they understand. Now, we have to teach them this stuff, but I think they understand. And understand, I don't even use a convective outlook. There will be days where I don't even use a convective outlook. It is my position to be up there and tell a story. And if that doesn't fit in with the story I'm telling and doesn't really help, I might not use it. Doesn't mean I'm changing it or issuing my own. I just might not use it. So we're all there telling stories. We have to pick and choose what graphics, what products that we use. And convective outlooks are very important, and I show them most days. But to answer your question, I'm not going to touch it. Do I think it's misleading? Yes. All for years and years and years, I've said this. When people hear the word there's a slight risk of severe weather, what does that mean to them? Chance there's a slight chance that nothing's going to happen. I'm not going to worry about it. Where in truth is that is the standard risk. And what we're guilty of in the weather enterprise, we sit around these rooms, around these digital mahogany tables like we have here, and we decide what we think is best, what's best for us. It doesn't matter. What matters is what's best for the people out here in these Walmarts and Targets, the real people that we're serving. And I'm afraid we don't know them. And we've got to get out of here and get out of these rooms and go know them better. So that's why the socials is so important to me. But we've got a lot of education to do because people still see that word slight and they think nothing's going to happen. Enhanced, they'll probably going to think that might be a high risk. It's going to take some time to teach them what that stuff means. I agree, it's kind of confusing, but I think it's a step in the right direction.
You know, the biggest problem that I think people run into here, James, is the fact that they don't think like we do. You know, we have a meteorology degree, and I understand the reasoning behind why the SPC decided to change their convective outlooks from a scientific standpoint. They wanted to associate a probability with each word, and if we look back at the history of convective outlooks, you have to look at the fact that, well, originally it was not intended for public use. It was intended for internal use. So now that all this is out there, I was talking to Greg last year at the Weather Summit in Steamboat, Colorado, when they were making this announcement at the same time that they were doing it in Breckenridge, and I sat on the chairlift with him, and he kind of told me why he was wanting to do it. So I get that. However, we have to separate ourselves and say, you know what? None of our viewers, or a very small percentage of our viewers, probably get weather. Most of them don't, and so they don't think like we do. They don't act like we do. So we have to try to find a way, but yet that is probably the hardest thing, is how can we take a complicated science and dumb it down for them and then not have it become confusing?
And the answer to that is different in every market. And that's why you've got to understand the people and the culture of the market in which you serve. What works for you probably won't work for me, and vice versa. But yeah, this is hard. By the way, you'll notice how Damon dropped that name. I was with Greg Carbon on the ski lift. I
had to drop it in. He's watching.
Man, that was awesome.
He's watching.
That was awesome. I know that Rick Smith is watching, our Weather Brains guy, who's the morning coordination meteorologist, because he's on the Twitter right now. So shout out to
I was going to say that because we were talking about this whole thing, and Rick's watching, and Rick has really done a really good job here in trying to connect the local meteorologists and just kind of helping work with us all together as a team. We just had the National Weather Festival down there where every meteorologist in the local TV market was there, just in the same room, which, you get a bunch of us in the same room and what can happen. So I applaud Rick for really trying to get us together, and he's actually working and trying to come up with a time where we can sit down with him and his team at the Weather Service office, and by we I mean all the local Mets here, and just try to come together and working on getting that message being the same when it comes to risk outlooks and all that stuff. So kind of applaud Rick for trying.
Yeah, no, Rick's a great guy. He's got more sense than everybody at this station combined, probably. But you're right. Again, this is a very competitive business, and a lot of weather people are, they're starting to see the writing on the wall, and that times are changing. What worked in the 70s and 80s and 90s and the last decade doesn't work anymore. And a little twinge of panic maybe, and everybody's trying to one-up each other on social media, and I see a lot of people that are not getting along, and I would like to focus in the future on things that bring us together in the weather enterprise instead of on the things that tear us apart, because if we're not unified, especially with broadcast meteorologists during this change, we're in a big bunch of trouble here.
Yeah, and I'm glad you said that, because that was something that I wanted to mention earlier when we were talking about getting all these different things on Twitter, is that I feel like in this past year, it's just been like meteorologists butting heads, and I'm like, why aren't we working together? I keep just seeing people turning people, like putting people down, and calling out people and everything, and I'm like, why are we doing this to each other? We're all in the same You know, we should be in the same family.
Right, and you know, in part, I don't know if this is part of it or not, but the 800-pound gorilla in the room is the climate change topic, which has become politicized. And as you guys know, this nation is so split, and the feelings are so harsh on this, and it's infiltrated its way into the weather enterprise. And I've seen wonderful that I've known for years become bitter enemies with other scientists in the weather enterprise because of this one issue. And you know, on our show, you know the way it works. If anybody even brings it up, we have a buzzer because we're not going to change anybody's mind on a weather show. People that watch our show are either professionals or they're semi-professionals or they've made up their own mind. It just invokes hate and anger and rage, and that's for somebody. That is not my battle to fight. I have no. My interest is making the warning process better. After what happened here 3 years ago changed my life because I thought the death toll April 27, 2011 should have been 30 in my state, and the death toll was 252. The bottom line is there should be 222 precious people having lunch today that died on that day, and we I don't know what weather attracts narcissists. We think we're so good and we can't make mistakes and we can't improve and we know more than anybody else. It's really bizarre. And as I get older, I'm beginning to understand so much we don't know and what we can't do. And we obviously have a lot of work to do on the communication side of it. The physical science side was so stinking good that day, but yet the communication side apparently failed. And we've got to learn to be better. And we need to be together as a unit, even in a competitive situation. So sometimes you have to just grit your teeth and go hold hands with the other stations and sing Kumbaya, say, let's agree on the basics. Now, the way we do our thing, yes, we're going to be radically different, and I will beat your rear end every time. But the basics, I think, have to be there, and whatever it can take to unify the weather enterprise is very important. I love when Marshall Shepard was the AMS president. I thought he did more to bring the weather enterprise together than anybody else. And I see this effort within the National Weather Association, and hopefully we can just kind of pull together instead of tear apart in coming years.
Yeah.
What do you, James? You know, you start talking about the big outbreak that y'all had a couple of years ago. How did that change you?
Well, understand, I'm old as dirt. I mean, I've got underwear older than most everybody on this show here. I started in this market in 1979. So I've been through a lot of tornado outbreaks. You know, we have this stuff all the time. But I call that generational because that tends to happen here about every 40 years. The last analog to that was in 1974, April of 74, the super outbreak. Prior to that, we had an event like that in March 1932. So I have not worked an event like that as a professional. I was in high school in 1974. And there is no manual. There is no book. Oh, that's cool. A light just blew out in here.
I heard it.
Wow. That was awesome. But there's no manual. There's no book on how to handle something like that when you have multiple strong, violent tornadoes down at the same time. Which one do you focus on? What do you say? What's your body language like? What do you take this camera? Do you take that camera? And as you know, Damon, we're directing on the fly. Mm-hmm. There's no the producer's job is to tell me in my ear, this is what you've got. I've got to make I am the director of the show. I am the producer of the show, and we're doing it in real time with a computer in front of me. It's like an air traffic controller, all this information coming in. And after the whole thing was over, I refused to talk about it for 6 months, which is very odd for me because most of you know that I'm a loudmouth. If you mean you watch our show, and I didn't talk about it for 6 months because I didn't want to, had no interest in talking about it, and I went through all these emotions. I went through the emotion of grief. I went through the emotion of anger. I went through the emotion of depression. And let me just say this: a lot of people in the weather community occasionally will get into something, and you guys, especially in your market, where it is easy to get depressed. You're around this loss of human life, and you see these horrific things happen, and it's okay if you go get help. You know, the Weather Service had counselors here in Birmingham after April 27th for their employees. I had some available to me. It took about a 6-month process of this grief and everything else before I was ready to let's roll up our sleeves and let's talk about it and let's go fix it. And fixing it is my medicine, if you will. It energizes me because I think we can do something for the next generation the next time it happens here. But in terms of changing me, the one thing I think I was guilty of before that was probably too much hyperbole. It is very easy, if you're doing what we do, to get hung up in hype about snow, about severe weather, about tornadoes. It is very, very easy to do that. And I think what's changed now, I'm fighting that. And I think so many of us are. And yes, we have these, social media boneheads that post these outrageous things that aren't true. But even sometimes within the weather community, people are going to say things that just they don't need to say. And I have really backed off of that. And they don't need to hear me, using certain words to describe a severe weather outbreak unless it is a really, really big deal. So I've cut back on the amount of hyperbole, and I've really watched my body language now and the things I say, and learning from the social scientists have helped me so much. I can't thank them enough.
There's definitely, having been out here and more, I mean, I'll say, I'm obviously a young chief meteorologist in this market. I'm the youngest one of 4, and I used to go through the whole emotions of, oh, we got severe weather coming up, and you would kind of get excited. I no longer get excited for whenever there's a threat for severe weather. It might at least get my heart going, but after what we went through, because I would say May of 2013, we experienced more severe weather during that 2-week stretch than probably most meteorologists will experience for an entire career. We had 2 tornado emergencies. I mean, it just, the list went on and on and on. But I no longer get excited for when severe weather that comes in here. That, especially when it comes with tornadoes. And that,
I agree. I was the same way when I was young. I was excited. I was pumped. I wanted it, and now the thought of it, now I get this adrenaline rush, and if we all get that, but I have no interest in it. And the other thing too, and this is a very real thing we all battle here, is that you're going to have to deal with haters the next day. We live in a world now full of chronic whiners, moaners, gripers, complainers, and haters that are bitter and cynical and beyond mean. It's pretty rough, and we all have to face these people in the trenches, and whether it's cutting off somebody's program or whether it's you didn't focus on my county and the tornado that came through here, the vitriol that you deal with on the internet is bitter and wicked. And one of the things I've tried to do is to take those bullets and let the younger ones that work here not look at all of that. I will filter 1 or 2 through there, but we have to be better at processing that. The natural human emotion is to fire back. And, we've got to be feisty. Everybody here has got to be feisty to survive. But there's a line that you can cross where you go back and you start attacking those that are attacking you. And they're looking for a fight. And my position is, it takes 2 people to fight. You won't fight me. It's not happening,
Yeah.
You go somewhere else. But
Do you think that people legitimately get you've been in the business for a while, and you were in the generation where you didn't have social media just 5, 10, 15 years ago. Now that you can hear everybody's frustration when you interrupt their lost, do you find that, do you think people are more upset now, or we're just hearing their complaints are more readily out there?
No, it's been this way forever. I mean, look, it was like this in the 80s and 90s. Now we just hear from them. And I'll tell you guys a secret. I have not answered my phone at work in, 16 years. I don't know what my phone number is. I don't know how to get voicemail. I don't even know where my phone is in here. I have no idea, because every time you'd pick it up, it'd be these haters and this voicemail. And now to set up all the school programs and everything else, it's just got to be done on the digital side. You can send me an email, hit me up on social media. I will come. I'll do whatever. But that has helped me. I just don't need to hear that. It's a lot easier to hit the delete. But no, I think it's always been that way. Especially, Brad, back in the late 70s and 80s, where you didn't have 500 channels back then. You just had you had HBO and ESPN and the big networks, and maybe TBS, and that was about it. And boy, you cut off a show then, and you're doing 60 and 70 shares in just regular programming. I would imagine it would have been rough, and it's probably a good thing I didn't hear it when I was that young. But learning how to deal with haters, that is part of the art of doing what we do, broadcast meteorology. They're there, they will always be there, and they will come after us, and it's going to be bad.
Well, we have a couple of minutes, and Jonathan, I didn't know if you had anything you wanted to ask. I know we've been just kind of rambling on over here.
See, Jonathan's in the studio in there. He's in the battle control center.
Well, sure, a couple things. Number one, I haven't said anything because when I listen, I learn. And James, I've learned a lot from you. And here's the deal: during the outbreak of 2011, I was up in Fort Wayne, Indiana, working at Wayne TV, and I watched your live stream, and I sat there and went, if I can be like James, because he's calm and he is saving lives. And you're so humble. You're gonna be like, well, I'm just doing my job. But I emailed you and I said, James, thank you for what you did. You have inspired me to improve my severe weather coverage. And I'm thinking, he's never going to reply. The guy's so busy. And that night or the next day, you replied. And then I sent you another email. I said, how do you deal with the haters, James? Because I got this guy, and he is on me. He is on me, and it's killing me. He said, you know what? Sometimes you need them. Sometimes you need the haters, like talk radio. That's the quote you use, AM radio. Sometimes you need the haters to kind of get things going, and that's okay. Don't take it personally. So I've learned from you, and I've sat here today, and here's, I'm on my iPhone, and I got the little notebook app. Let me get it pulled up in here. And I don't know if people can see that, but I'm just taking notes of everything that you said, from early bird gets the worm, conventional business models dying, Google Plus is Facebook without the stupid. I'm learning, and so my goal is to implement this with our weather coverage. Absolutely. So
and look, now you're in Oklahoma City, greatest weather market in the world. There you go. So
yeah, and I'm gonna be real honest here. Let me be honest. I worked here from 2005 to 2010, and I moved away for a couple years and came back. And how lucky am I to work with a chief who doesn't hype? Damon and I have the exact same concept of weather coverage, and it makes my job enjoyable. Because living in the hype and having to just smoke and mirrors, having to do that, not fun for me. But when I can go in and be like, man, I get to work with a guy, and he's just going to call it how he sees it, sign me up. I can do this forever. So I'm very lucky. I'm not just saying that. I don't know if I've ever told Damon that to his face. So boom, this is going to live in social media or on YouTube forever. But I appreciate, James, everything I've learned from you, and I am grateful to have the opportunity to work with somebody like Damon. There you go.
This is that's my two people you work with. And you guys can kiss after the show, by the way.
There you go.
A big manly hug. No, you got to like who you work with. That's very important. And when I hire people here, I stress three characteristics. I want somebody that's got a passion for their job. I want somebody that cannot wait to walk in the door of this building and can't wait to wake up, even if it's 4 in the morning, to do their job, or 2 in the morning, whenever the morning guys work. And I want somebody that's a man of integrity. And we all make mistakes, but I need somebody that's not going to go drop their drawers out here on the interstate or whatever. I mean, I need somebody you can rely on, and somebody. The other thing, I call it a servant's heart, which means you put the needs of your viewers before your own needs. You're not up there on television just to be on television to make yourself a king or a queen and to look good. You're there actually serving people. We are public servants, and we often forget that. And it's easy to forget that in this culture, but that's what I'm looking for. And it sounds like you guys have a pretty good little group there where you like each other.
We do. We absolutely do. So you want to say anything before we go? You want to plug anything, James?
Oh, let's plug Weather Brains. That's our. We've been doing this show for 8 years, and you see, I've totally held off on playing any kind of buzzing noises or. I got the whole soundboard here, but no, I think everybody needs a creative outlet, and for you, this is great. But we started the show 8 years ago, and it's really an audio podcast. We added video because the general manager here wanted it on our digital channel, which is horrifying. I said, Murphy, what do you mean? Do you know the outrageous stuff we get into on this show? And he said, yeah, it's great. So we're on the local cable television, but we added video. But it's Rick Smith, who is in your market, the WCM. We have Dr. John Scala, who's in Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Kevin Selly, who is now in Wichita Falls, Texas, close to you guys. He was in Dallas. And some other guys, Brian Peters and Bill Murray and Aubrey Urbanowitz, who's in Harrisonburg, Virginia. And we bring on just a lot of different guests like you guys are doing. And it has become a wonderful outlet, not only for us to have some fun, but to talk about serious subjects. We record Monday nights, but just go to the podcast, just search Weather Brains, you'll find it. That's the only plug I have. I'm done.
Well, James, we appreciate, James, you coming on, and we've increased our budget a little bit here on the Oklahoma Weather Show, so we'll get your address, and we'll send you some good stuff in the mail.
Ooh, cool. All right.
Yay.
I'll be back soon.
Thanks, James.
All right, thanks, guys. Y'all have a great